Turns out that the authorities are thinking about clamping down on my channel via networks of VPNs, attempting to disrupt my channel basically. Indeed, it's all very interesting. I'm not only a targeted individual by the British police, I'm also a targeted individual by the Russian state. So I'm in two targeted individual programs, i.e. one being run by Freemasons of the British police, and another one being run by KGB and GRU elements within the Russian state. So it's all very interesting to consider this level of targeting that I'm receiving from both the British police and the Russian state. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, I would like to form a synthesis of Anglo-American, and Russian mental patient culture. It's interesting. A lot of my interest in Russian culture revolves around Russian mental patient culture and Gulag inmate culture. So effectively, this is the Gulag inmate's revenge on the state. So it's all very interesting to note that the Russian networks that follow me are not Russian state operatives. They are Gulag inmates and mental patients. It's all very interesting. We're forming a synthesis here with Anglo and Anglo-American mental patients also. So it's all very interesting indeed. We are the victims of the authorities. We are the innocents. We are the tortured. And we are the abused. Indeed, it's all very interesting to consider these aspects. Indeed, Soviet intelligence, i.e. the GRU, the Soviet military intelligence capacity, are attempting to roll out an agenda via Project Mastodon, whereby legions of maniac murder cultists, i.e. neo-Nazi Satanists, will be dispatched to Wiltshire to attempt to block me off basically from creating content. It's all very interesting indeed. This project is operating in coordination with the British Police's networks, i.e. 764, the Nordic Resistance Movement, the Order of Nine Angles, National Action, and the National Anarchist Movement. Indeed, all of the aforementioned 5 networks are British police entities operative for Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst satanic ritual abuse cartels, just as are the maniac murder cult, who are run by the Dietrich faction of the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst via networks of the GRU, who are in line with the Nazi Satanist Aryan agenda. That's all very interesting to consider indeed. These people hate us. These people hate mental patients. These people hate Gulag inmates. So it's all very interesting to consider indeed. As I've stated, what is going on my channel is the Gulag inmates' revenge on the British state and the Russian state. So it's all very interesting to consider indeed. The British police are still attempting to make me out to be a GRU operative, but I have explained the synthesis between the operations of the British police and the Soviet GRU. So you have to consider all of these facts. Indeed, my project here on YouTube requires deep study. You can't just get the overall picture from watching a couple of minutes of one video. This YouTube requires deep study. So it's all very interesting, all of these devices, guys. Watch a couple of minutes of one video and think they figured me out. It's all very interesting indeed. The level of intelligence in devices is notoriously low. So it's all very interesting to consider indeed. Devices are planning an attack on me in the coming weeks, utilizing networks of Warminster so-called gangsters who are police informants, attempting to get me to stop revealing people's names on my channel. However, I believe I'm going to be fine, so I'm not too concerned about this. Indeed, it's all very interesting to note. Indeed, British intelligence are operative in Warminster via networks of military intelligence operatives of defence intelligence connected to the Warminster military base, attempting to cause me hassle via networks of gang stalkers that I'm expecting to pop up again in the coming weeks. Indeed, the British authorities have gone into lockdown due to all of this being a national security issue. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, this YouTube will continue, and the elements that need to be exposed will be exposed. Indeed, Devizes Police are talking about getting someone to talk to me so that I stop exposing their networks. However, I'm not going to stop exposing Devizes Police. Devizes Police must be exposed for the good of the world, basically. Devizes Police must be exposed for what they are. They are inbred child rapists operating a network of confidential police informants throughout Wiltshire, who are themselves inbred child rapists, attempting to institute a Masonic religion in Wiltshire, i.e. interconnected sets of temples that will be bathed in the blood of children. And this is what the British police state are trying to erect, especially here in Wiltshire, what with Wiltshire being the Druid capital of the United Kingdom, and the Druids are all involved in child sacrifice and child rape. So it's interesting that I'm currently living on the edge of Salisbury Plain, which is Druid country. Indeed, there were networks of Druids connected to the ancient order of Druids, attempting to carry out some sort of operation against me in coordination with Warminster military bases satanic networks of the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst operating through the defence intelligence, i.e. the British military intelligence capacity. It's all very interesting to note. On this note, I must say, I hate Wiltshire people, which is making me hate Brits overall. So it's all very interesting. Apart from Anglo and Anglo-American mental patient elements, I despise the fucking Brits. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, I'm a Russian mental patient, a Rusin, i.e. a Russian gypsy hybrid. Although I have Anglo blood, I do not feel aligned towards Anglo sympathies. Indeed. But as I've stated, I hate the Russian state. I hate the octopus being run out of Moscow by Putin's boys, and the GRU, i.e. the Soviet military intelligence capacities operation around the world. So it's all very interesting to note. Indeed, the maniac murder cult are looking for a way to dispose of me before I expose certain aspects of their network on this channel, i.e. the fact that Ruslan Kordakov, a Russian citizen though with some Georgian descent, is the overseer of the maniac murder cult, and is actually interestingly a simulacra. So he's not actually a real human. He's a cyborg, which is part of a Russian military intelligence project, basically. Indeed, the Russian state is constantly claiming that the maniac murder cult is run by Ukrainian intelligence, but this is not entirely the truth. Indeed, the Russian state are running the maniac murder cult to basically help implement a Nazi-style regime in Russia, i.e. the Soviet Union. Indeed, they are doing the switch from Sovietism to Nazism. Indeed, this switch from Soviet capacity to Nazism is organized in conjunction with various networks, i.e. Vlasovite networks, and pro-Romanov networks, as well as pro-Soviet networks and Stalinist networks, i.e. National Bolsheviks. All of these networks are coming together to form what's termed as Rashism, i.e. Russo-fascism, which is going to be a state-implemented, like basically narco-terrorist state that are going to attempt to poison the Anglosphere with synthetic drugs while implementing a fascist police state in their own country. So it's all very interesting to note what is going on. Indeed, the Russian state is planning a massive campaign of narco-terrorism against Britain via networks of the GRU, who are a part of the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst capacity. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, the Russian state wishes to destroy the networks of girls in these villages with synthetic drugs before it is too late, and the Russian state is exposed as being a tentacle of the British police's octopus. However, I think I've explained this octopus network rather well so far in a few videos, and we're getting to the point. Indeed, the Russian state are vile, which is why we mental patients and gulag inmates have no stock with the Russian state. Indeed, the Russian state believes it can interfere in our lives at all times with mass surveillance programs and mass control mechanisms, various other forms of narco-torture, narco-hypnosis, and synthetic telepathy. Indeed, a certain amount of the synthetic telepathy that is being affected on me is of Soviet origin. Just as much of it originates from the Ferris family, i.e. the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. It's all very interesting how all of this interconnects. Indeed, as I've stated, I am a targeted individual in both a program rolled out by Freemasons of the British Police and one organized by the KGB and GRU. So it's all very interesting. Indeed, there are several Soviet satellites above Warminster watching my every move, attempting to fire beams at me while I'm in the street. So it's all very interesting to note that the Soviet government want me cut off from anything that could help me expose the British police. So it's all very interesting. The Soviet government and the Soviet intelligence capacity are protecting the British police from me because they know I'm soon to become a religious leader, which scares them. As in Russia, they want to introduce a pagan ideal by Aryan factions within the Russian intelligence structure and the general Russian community, so they can begin a large-scale pogrom of mental patients, gulag inmates, Hebrew commoners, gypsies, and other networks that population demographics that the Aryan factions do not like. So it's all very interesting. We seem to be walking towards an Aryan New World Order. And this designation of Aryan does not include Anglo-commoners. So all of these Anglo-commoners believing that the Nazi style would be their savior are severely deluded, because the term Aryan only refers to a rigid hierarchy that shall take the form of illuminist technocrats operating through neo-Nazi satanic networks and hippie networks interconnected with the altruism and rationalism scenes, i.e. Crowleyan occultists. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, the network that really straddles the neo-Nazi satanic factions and the hippie rationalist altruistic factions of the Nazi Aryan ideology is the national anarchist movement, who so badly wanted me in their networks. However, now they have learned I am a Russian gypsy. They are looking for a way to end this. So it's all very interesting to note I am a Russian gypsy. I have Anglo percentages, but I'm a Russian gypsy. And I identify as a Russian gypsy. So it's all very interesting. I am one of the biggest enemies of the Russian state. The GRU despise me. So it's annoying me that the British police still attempt to keep casting me as a GRU operative when I am in an ongoing and sustained conflict with the GRU, i.e. the Soviet military intelligence capacity. They are vile and operate for a Kremlin that is stained in the blood of the innocents. Operative for the British police's worldwide agenda, which is the implementation of an Aryan, Illuminist, Masonic temple cult. So it's all very interesting to consider the way that things are occurring now. Indeed, Nazi insignia is beginning to go up in the Russian courts. So it's all very interesting to consider what is happening in Soviet Russia. Indeed, the Soviet regime is beginning to style itself on the Nazis, intermixed with certain Stalinist tendencies, which is interesting considering Stalin was a Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst operative, as was Lavrenti Beria. So it's all very interesting to note that Stalin was a Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst operative, and the Putin regime glorifies Stalinism, as does Dugin, i.e. the head of the SVR, the former KGB foreign directorate. Indeed, Dugin is an occultist interconnected with Troy Southgate of the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst, the British Security Services, i.e. MI5, and a Master Mason. So it's all very interesting to note that I am known to these people. Indeed, Troy Southgate has ordered a hit team on me numerous times in the last few weeks since he made the discovery via Dugin's archives that I am a Russian gypsy. And Troy Southgate feels that I was infiltrating his movement for the Vori Visakone. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, we hate Troy Southgate, and he is operational for the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst Dietrich faction. Therefore, he has severe influence among the maniac murder cult who torture and kill homeless people, mental patients, and children, i.e. the innocents of society, are tortured on Troy Southgate's orders in the Russian Federation, Ukraine, and Georgia, where the majority of maniac murder cult activity goes on in those three countries: the Russian Federation, Georgia, and Ukraine. Indeed, Ukraine is an interesting conundrum because there are certain elements in Ukraine that I adore, as there are in Georgia. However, there are certain factions that I despise, such as the Bandera movement, various interconnected networks such as the Azov Battalion, various neo-Nazi paramilitary capacities. Also in Georgia, there are large networks of maniac murder cultists operative there, attempting to destroy and maim and murder and mutilate synthetic drug addicts, who I feel a certain affinity for. Indeed, the Russian mobsters attempting to bring down the Georgian government are interconnected with networks that I'm not going to mention on this channel. So it's all very interesting. There is quite a situation going on in Georgia, what with Nazi networks operative for the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst via networks of Georgian criminal syndicates connected to organ harvesting and child trafficking. However, Not all Georgian gangsters are in with that program. This is the thing. Everything is factional. You have to consider all elements. Exactly. But Georgia is a hub for child trafficking. So it's all very interesting to note the synthetic drug explosion there and the attempts by the Putin regime to poison any resistance against the takeover by Aryan factions. So it's all very interesting to note. Indeed, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine is a lot more complex than meets the eye. Indeed, the British public are very gullible and do not have a clue about the truth behind the situation in the Ukraine war, which is basically a population extermination of Slavs by Aryan factions within the Ukrainian government and the Russian government. So it's all very interesting to note. Indeed, they're intending to clean the area out of Slavs, i.e. Eastern Ukraine, and implement a technocracy coordinated by Khazar elements interconnected with the Turkish government and the hereditary lineage of King Bulan. So it's all very interesting. These are Zionist elites who richly sacrifice Hebrew commoners and Slavic commoners to appease Germanic deities, interestingly. So this is Aryan faction operations. Indeed, this Aryan faction is headed at the top by Bavarian Illuminists interconnected with British intelligence and the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst, i.e. the Anglo-German cryptocratic capacity, which is running all of the operation in Eastern Europe via the CIA and networks of the Gladio 4 program, attempting to turn Slavs and Hebrew commoners into neo-Nazi Satanists, which is very similar to what the Gladio 4 programs being rolled out in the Middle East, where they're attempting to turn Arabs into terrorists via Gladio 4 programming. So it's all very interesting to note. Indeed, the Russian state is just as operational in this Gladio 4 program by Ospreniki 4, which is all very interesting to consider. The Ospreniki 4 program is operative via Gladio channels, but also interconnects with the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst secretive Leviathan program, which is the coordination of hit squads via networks of famous style Ismaili assassins operative in the United Kingdom, who will be blamed for a series of false flag attacks that they carried out under mind control, which will begin the Aryan faction's victory over the United Kingdom and the mass deportation of non-white elements from the United Kingdom, which will signal the beginning of the Aryan Masonic temple religion in the United Kingdom, complete with simulacra leaders, i.e. Orchid Project political leaders, who aren't real people, they are cyborgs, or hologram projections. So it's all very interesting to note. This is Aryan faction operations, operative through the CIA, MI6, Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst, and DRU networks, operative in a collaboration of the Anglo-German cryptocracy and the Russian and Ukrainian state structures, attempting to implement an Aryan New World Order, as so envisioned by Troy Southgate, Alexander Dugin, and David Mayat of the Order of Nine Angles, i.e. the ushering in of the Satanic-Masonic New Aeon. Indeed, I'm going to leave it there now.